Welcome to More Than Renovating, a renovate and real estate podcast. Our founder, Belinda Smith, talks to industry experts to provide you with the knowledge and information you need to make renovating for love and profit your reality. Belinda will also chat to some of her Renovation Mastery members, who are just everyday people doing extraordinary things, following their passions in the renovation and property space. So, let's jump straight into the episode. Enjoy.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Belinda Smith and I'm from Renovate and Real Estate. And I have a special guest for you today on my podcast. My podcast is Renovate and Real Estate, and we talk about more than renovating. That's always the topic because I truly believe that renovating is the thing that we do, but it's not the result that we create. The result that we create is far broader than just the renovation itself. So welcome, Miescha Phillips.
Hi, Belinda. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, and you. So Miescha has worked with me now for, you can help me out here, I don't know, 12 months, longer than 12 months perhaps.
Oh, almost 12 months, I think. Yeah.
And Miescha has a business set up called Rising Phoenix Property Solutions. Miescha's based in South Australia, and we're going to discuss all things renovating, where she started. So let's actually start there. First of all, Miescha, introduce yourself and where it all began for you, where you grew up.
So I'm Miescha, and I grew up predominantly in the Barossa Valley in South Australia, which is a bit of a wine area. It's renowned for its wines and beautiful, picturesque countryside. So yeah, I grew up on a farm, and had a life of ponies and running around and frolicking in sunshine and all that sort of thing, as you do as a kid, and throwing sticks and
A proper country upbringing. I know that horses are still a big part of your life. We can spend a minute on that if you like. What do you do now in relation to horses?
Oh, I have to make lots of money to feed them. No,
Yeah.
I do a little bit of lower level eventing. So I've got a mare that's taken me through some of the levels, and I've pretty semi-retired her, and I've got a youngster that I bred. And yeah, so he's just grown and grown and grown, and now it's time for him to make the start. I sort of didn't expect him to be as big as he was from an old age horse, as big as he turned out, but yeah, we will soldier on with him and see how we go. So yeah, he's a bit of a doofus, as they are, all the boys.
Which is good. I love horses too. You know that I've had horses in my life, and so I think once you're attached to horses, they are an expensive habit, but they're ones. It's a habit that you can't break if it's truly part of your life. And so for you, renovating and property was a way of supporting your lifestyle. And like where you grew up in the country, how did you know it was actually a thing? Like at what point did you work out that renovating was actually a thing?
Uh, yeah, I think I always sort of grew up changing my bedroom around and all those sorts of things 50,000 times, as some of us sort of do.
Yeah.
And then in my early 20s, my husband and I, we moved onto a station up north of South Australia, and we were on stations for about 20 years. And a lot of those properties, they sort of look, they're sound, but they're not very homely. So I sort of would, every property that we were on, I would always sort of sit out there and do the gardens and repaint and just sort of make the house feel like a home for us as a family. So I think it sort of really, for me, started there. When I was growing up, my dad would always be renovating something in the house, and once it was all looking good, decide to sell that and then find another one and renovate something else in the house. And that was just his way of being. So it wasn't like a builder, so to speak, constantly doing major renovations, but it was always sort of happening around me. And I always found that it was a bit creative, and it was something that I really enjoyed, sort of seeing that process and sort of sometimes, handing Dad the hammer or the spray gun or the this, that and the other, and sometimes just getting right out of the way when it all goes to shit. So and as we know, as renovators, that tends to happen.
That happens.
So it's part of the criteria, really. So yeah, it was a really good experience, I think, for me. to, as a creative type of person, to be able to have that environment around me as a younger person. And I think that's what maybe encouraged me to not feel overwhelmed or intimidated by the idea of actually sort of going in and adding a bit of a touch to make it quite homely for us as a family.
Yeah. What did you do for a career? Like when you left school, where did that path take you?
Oh, when I left school, I was actually working in a modelling agency doing marketing.
Not
So that
surprised,
was
guys. If you're listening on the podcast, Miescha's beautiful. Head over to YouTube. Yeah, go on.
so yeah, so it was. I mean, that was back in the days where the computers were really only used for admin purposes. So
Yeah,
marketing was very different then to what it is now. It's a
yeah,
whole
I
different
agree.
kettle of fish. So yeah, so it was always sort of. I think for me, I've always sort of been in that creative field, so to speak. Yeah.
And married, had kids.
Yeah, married. I had got married in my early 20s and two children, 27 and turning 24 now. So crossed that bridge, survived, living proof that you can do it.
You can do
Um,
it. So now you're single and keen to support yourself fully and thoroughly through property. And in fact, that's what you've essentially been doing. So talk to me a little bit about that, how that all came to be.
so when I separated from my husband, we had a PPOR that was in the Adelaide Hills, a 10-acre property. And when we purchased it, it was pretty rough. And it was a shed conversion. And look, I think not really sure if a blind man would have been happy to see that. I think at the end, probably very much so. But to
Yeah.
start with, it was the fella that had owned it was a Russian guy, and he used to do opal mining up in Queensland, and different breed, and his living standards were interesting, and
The basics.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that a bit of Russian culture came through in some very bright colours that he had put in the actual shed conversion.
Oh, right.
Um, yeah, it was a little gaudy, so a little rough. So I spent some time on that property prior to us moving to that. And then when we separated, it was we wanted to get this property on the market, but I didn't really want it to feel like it was a fire sale. So I sort of spent maybe up to another 12 months just finalising the things on that property that I really wanted to get finished. And my ex-husband was on board with that, which was wonderful. And he was reasonably supportive for an ex, reasonably, well,
Yeah.
actually for an ex, very supportive.
Yeah.
And I'd get him to come over and do some of the hard yards. Just when we separated, we had a contract fencing business. So we had a Toro, a bit like a little, I'm not really sure what else you'd call them, a bit like a dingo stand on the back sort of a thing. And so, yeah, I would get him to bring that over for me, and I'd look around and grade the driveways and dig holes and fix up garden beds and such like that with that. And then on the inside of the property, I continued to just finalise the things that were going on in there and finish painting the outside and such like. And yeah, I was really happy with the way it was finished. It was ready for its next chapter, that
Yeah.
property. I sort of was pleased that we'd got it to the stage that we had.
Yeah. So in your opinion, does that make a difference to the resale price? Is that the
Oh,
reason why you
massive.
did it? Or was it personal pride, just wanting to finish things and complete that chapter of your life?
I think it was a bit of a combination. Obviously, when you're in that situation, you sort of want to walk away with as much as you can. And that was the same for my ex-husband. Like, we
Yeah.
wanted to be able to walk away. And I was probably more passionate about the idea of having it finished to a certain stage than what he was, but he was still on board with that, which was great. And the price difference really it made an impact, certainly, for us to be able to walk away with the profit that we made out of that property. I think we bought that for $380. It probably cost us about $80,000 in materials on that place.
Yeah.
And it probably cost us about $3 million in labour and time and patience.
Patience
Yeah.
and goodwill.
Um,
Yeah.
yes. So, yeah, it was really good at the end of it to finish what we'd sort of started to that point. It didn't even hit the market, that property. So that was a little bit nerve-wracking because we weren't really sure what that property was going to be worth. But I had a really good offer put on the table, and I just thought, you know what, I'll just take it. We could get more, we could get less if we put this to market. We're going to have extra expenses. These people were keen as mustard. They actually sacrificed $10,000 deposit that they'd put on another property to buy this one. So that was, yeah, a bit disappointing for them, but
Yeah.
it indicated to me that they really loved that property as much as what I did. I mean, I would have been happy to have been buried there, and when the time came, but that's just not how that worked out. So
Yeah,
I'll find somewhere else to get buried.
Yeah, life takes different paths. But that says to me that they just fell in love, that you created a property that was so lovely that they really just had to have it, and they were prepared to, you know, forego that $10,000 deposit to have your property instead. So that is the power, I'll say it, the power of a really nice put together renovation. So is that like the moment that you worked out that renovating could be part of a wealth creation strategy, or was it before then or after? Tell me about that.
I think I've always known that property is a wealth creation, and that adding value to a property is really the way to be able to go to get. And I think that was part of my upbringing, was buying properties that needed the work done to them so that you can get that at a much more cost effective price. And then sort of putting that time and energy into the property and having a minimal amount of finances that have to go into that. Like I said, my dad was quite capable of doing a lot of things. So not having to pay the labour on a lot of those things really made a difference.
Yeah,
And I think that that's sort of where I probably just grew up with that realization that that's how that was.
yeah,
Um, the property with my ex-husband, that was, yeah, to me that was a bit of confirmation, I guess, in the real world for now.
yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, that was very rewarding to be able to make those changes and get that results at the end of the day. Yeah.
So when it comes to a financial result, do you compare or have you compared what you can earn in a day job compared to what that property just brought you both of you, you and your ex, in that moment, like in one swoop?
Yeah, I do. But for me, like moving forward from that, it
Yeah,
was more about having that freedom of
yeah,
being able to choose when to an extent, when I'm working and when I'm not. I mean, obviously, if you've got a project on the go, I'm
you
committed to that.
committed
But
to it.
yeah, but it gives me the opportunity to take that time out. I'm older now. I don't like too hot in summer and too cold in winter. So it gives me a chance to escape to somewhere where it's warmer in winter for at least 1 week. And it gives me a bit of an opportunity to sort of pick and choose when I'm going to be involved in a project so that I can sort of work my life around that. And having the horses as well, it gives me the opportunity to sort of take the advantage of going and doing the things that I want to do. And I really didn't want to feel owned.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
yeah, I was like, no, I'm at this age now. I don't want to be owned. I own my own time. I'm responsible for myself. And, if I fail, that's on me. And if I don't, well, if I make a win, well, that's on me too. So yeah, I just wanted to be the owner of myself and my time and how I do my things. Yeah.
So when you started to renovate, and you were taking your leap into your first investment style properties, what were your biggest worries when you actually started doing that, flipping for profit? And how did you push through them? Like what came up for you?
I think the biggest concern was just getting the trades to be lined up
Yeah.
so that there was that smooth transition from one trade to the next, one job in that renovation to the next, and making sure that there was no sort of gaps in time or overlapping you've got one trade that's sort of needing to come in, and yet the other trade's not quite finished yet, or those sorts of things. So I think for me, that was my biggest concern. I think I was lucky enough to be in a position financially where I wasn't needing an investor, and I did have a joint venture with a lady that I knew that was also financially in a position. So put together, we were able to pull it off without sort of having outside investments. That property in particular, the initial purpose of that was that we were going to hold that property for a couple of years as a rental, and then we were going to sell that on after that. But then the market was just improving so well, and the house was coming up quite well, and we sort of thought, well, if we do keep it, the market probably wouldn't drop so much. It may not continue to increase, but if we kept it in a couple of years after being a rental, we're going to have to come back in, and we're going to have to repaint things, and we're going to have to redo some of the things that we had done to get that back on the market. So I think that's when we sort of decided, look, let's just pop it straight on the market, and see how we go. And if we don't get the money that we're really after, then we'll just hold on to that for a little bit, which would help with the capital gains tax. But we made that choice, and I think it was the right one for us.
Yeah. And that experience, was it positive for the both of you going into a partnership together for that project?
Yeah, I think very much so. I think we both learned an awful lot. We held different roles. We brought different things to the table, which was good. I was able to have basically the full control of the design element, and sort of putting all that together. For me, from that aspect, it was really good to have somebody where I could say, all right, well, I'm looking for black taps and I want them to look like this, or I'm looking for a light fitting that's going to look like that. And then she would go off and do the research and come back with a half a dozen, and I'll be, oh, that's the one, and she'd go off and order that and things like that. So that sort of, that was really helpful. But at the same time, I think it was a very good team effort, because we did bring different things to the table on that. So, I think it worked out quite well, really.
Yeah, fantastic. And I agree that I think when joint venture projects go well, they're quite good fun, and you can bounce ideas off each other. And in many cases, it's a way for people to get started. All right. So any learnings from that, the good things and the bad?
There was a few things on that particular house that I'd never sort of come across and tackled before. So they were great learning curves.
Yeah.
I think it was really rewarding to see the results at the end of the day, because obviously the house was it was sound, but it was quite run down, and the yard, and it was a bit overgrown, or no, it's probably not overgrown, but a bit unkept, and the continuity wasn't there, and and the cement floors were absolutely awful.
Can you remember some of the figures on that property, the rough buy-in price, and what the renovation cost you, and the sales price?
Yeah, well, we purchased that one for approximately $237,000.
Yeah.
And it was about a $56,000 renovation over a 6-month period.
Yeah.
The sale price, we ended up selling that for about $440,000.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so we walked away after all of our holding costs and, your stamp duties and like your purchase costs, your sale costs and all that sort of thing. We walked away with that with a total of $125,000 profit between us. So, pretty happy with that one, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good, especially when you think about saving that amount. Say if you were to save that amount of money in your after-tax dollars, that's something that for many people is beyond them. Some people can do it more easily depending on what you earn, but for many people, they'd be grateful for that amount of profit in that shorter amount of time. And so at what point did you start to feel really confident about your renovation abilities?
I think maybe when I finished the PPOR, I realised that this was something that I was really interested. It aligned with me as an individual, having the ability to be able to create that warmth in a space and that home feeling, and that peace. It's your own little sanctuary in the world, and to me, that's just so important. And so, any properties that I do, for me, that's that's what I'm looking for. Like a property has to an extent, has to hit that criteria where I feel I can turn this into a home and I can give this property its next chapter, and I can make a space for others, whether that's just a single person, a couple, a family, whoever, but that space where they can create those memories and that lifestyle, and just be able to have their sanctuary in the world. You know, they come home from work and they just put their feet up and they're home, you know, and it just is a nice calming space for them to be in.
I think it's a real gift if you're creative and you like to explore your creative. And I've seen your work, Miescha, and I've seen the types of things you do and the potential you identify in existing parts of a house and how you just cleverly upgrade them, uplift them, and make them really work with the rest of the property and only renew what you need to. Like you really have a gift for renovating. And so when you started to explore it, doing your PPR and then this next investment property with this partner, then your confidence grew to what extent? What have you done since then?
Oh, so since then I did a joint venture on a property that was needing to go to market, and that was very, very tired. That was a 8-acre property with 2 houses on it in a nice area in the Adelaide Hills. And the fella that owned it, he had a stroke a few years prior and was just not able to keep up with the maintenance and really needed to downsize. So we had an agent come out and value that one, and they gave us a value of 800,000. And so I spent 10 weeks smashing that out 7 days a week, and I put about 80,000 into that. Because there was a lot of gardens and sheds that needed sorting out, and then one of the houses wasn't a gut job, so to speak, but it did need all new floorings and it needed all painting and it needed lights changing and you know, a new oven going in and all those types of things. So that one there, after the 10 weeks, it went on to the market then, and we ended up getting 1.1 million for that. So that was I was pretty pleased with that, to go from 800 to 1.1 in a 10-week renovation, sort of tidy up and clean up on that one. So that one, I was really pleased with that. I've done a few other projects, but one that comes to mind is another one that I did, which was very close to the hacienda, which was technically, I guess, the first renovation career type of a job that I did.
The Spanish style home, which just came up so beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really pleased with the way that came up. I like to be able to enhance the character that's already there. Yeah. So the next that one, the other one that I did there in Mount Perth, in that town, was that was actually a hoarder's house. So that was 1,550 square meters of Vietnam on a good year out the back, and about 18 skip bins worth of removal from inside the house, and all the walls ended up having to take out at about waist height because they had been infested with rats and such like.
Oh, so a real hoarder's house, not just somebody who liked a few trinkets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so that one there I did, and that one I settled in April last year, and that one I felt really rewarded from, by being able to sort of take it from the state that it was in to turning that into a really lovely, like I said, that sanctuary for somebody, and turn it back into a home.
Beautiful. How long did it take you to do that project?
That one took about 6 to 7 months, and we put it on the market on a Friday evening, and the agent had a call from a couple of interstate buyers looking on the Saturday morning, and then on the Monday morning he gave them a video walkthrough, and by Monday lunchtime I'd actually signed a contract. So that was pretty fantastic. We didn't even have an open on it, so I was pretty stoked with that.
Is it the move-in ready thing that really gets people buying, whether the market is quiet or whether it's busy and moving? Do you think it makes a difference?
I definitely think so. With the buyers, certainly with the buyers that I've had, they are looking for something that's turnkey.
Yeah.
And, they're just wanting to have those things that we need I guess, more in a house than a home as well. So they're looking for the storage. They're looking for how easy things are to clean. Have we got the function correct in the house? Is
Yes.
the spaces right to fill? Can I get my lounge in here? And I think that they are. Yeah, definitely.
I think that what you should be really proud of is the way that bringing to a project, you don't just go in there and just spray paint everything like white or just color things over. Like you really do take the character in a home and enhance it. You really do make a place move in ready. You do really think about the demographic and who's buying and who you're attracting to that property, and it's a real gift, Miescha.
Well, I think
Okay.
it's really important. Thank
Yeah.
you. I think it's very important to be able to do that. And I think you sort of in South Australia here, there's not a lot of areas where you've got a lot of cookie cutter homes, and I tend to focus more on the Adelaide Hills and Barossa Valley.
Yeah.
So a lot of those homes, they'll speak to you with their own little story, and
I
so
agree.
yeah, I sort of like to try and tap into that, and then just sort of enhance that for those
Yeah.
homes, and fix what needs to be fixed in regards to if the layout's not quite right, or yeah, mostly I think layout is not quite right, then I'll fix that. Yeah. And of
Yeah.
course, anything structural or anything, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. That's my
Yeah, I think
opinion.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think we need to honour the new people to that home. It's their home. Whether they're renters
Mm.
or they're buyers, the people who move into that property next, it's their home. And so I think we need to honour them by doing, a good quality work, decent quality. Not perfect. Perfect will hold us up and cost us too much money, but good quality
Yeah.
work that we can be proud of.
Yeah, and I think for me too, like that satisfaction at the end of the day is what I'm needing to. I need that job satisfaction. I need to walk
Yeah.
away and know that I've done a job. The job's been done properly and
Yeah.
it's well done, and the people are really happy. And I live in this area, so
Yeah. Great point.
I don't. There's a saying, "Don't shit in your nest." So
Yeah, that's a great saying. You want to be able to walk down the street at your local shopping centre and say hi and smile and not be thinking, "Oh my
mm,
goodness, what I did to that house was awful." Can't be like that. Can't be doing that. So I
no,
agree.
no, yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it's definitely helpful when you're sort of honing in on particular areas,
Yeah.
then and country as well. Like the word gets out.
Oh,
If you're
word of
doing a
mouth.
crappy job, no one wants to sell their house to you or work with you.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel that there's that personal side of it, but then there's also that professional side of it as well, where you really need to you set the standard, and the people that are either wanting to purchase those houses or sell the houses to you or work with me,
Yeah.
then that's the level that they're looking for and expecting. So yeah, I really quite enjoy it, and getting feedback from buyers. Like years later, I've had feedback. The lady that bought the hacienda, she stopped me in the street one day and she said, "Oh, do
Yeah.
you remember who I am?" I felt really honoured because she said to me, "We just love our home." She said, "We've um, not come across any problems in the years that we've had the home. We've not changed anything. We love it just how it is. I love the work that you did to it." So
Oh
that
my
made me
goodness.
feel really honoured that I had achieved that part of the goal as well, to get that feedback a few years later. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess when it's in that initial stage, everyone's sort of, they've still got the excitement that they've just purchased this property and they're
Yeah.
moving in, they're starting their new chapter of life and those sorts of things. But to get that feedback years later, I thought, yeah, that to me made my day, really.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's something to be really proud of. And I think as a renovator, it's the tick of satisfaction beyond the money, to fulfill our creative flair, our excitement about creating something really beautiful from something ugly, but also, the monetary reward is there. That's a no-brainer, really. When you do your numbers, it's always going to be there. But beyond that,
Mm.
that feeling, yeah, it's something you'd be really proud of. Fantastic. All right. So you've done many projects. I know that one of your favorite projects was the Mount Pleasant project. Can you tell me why you enjoyed that project so much, or was it the outcome? Tell me about that one.
I think it was numerous things. I think it was, turning a house that everyone was saying, "Oh, that should be bulldozed, that should be bulldozed. Oh, you're trying to
Yeah.
put lipstick on a pig."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, yeah, the way that came out, yeah, it was just a really nice homely feel. It was nothing super extravagant. Like, it was 3 bed, 1 bath and things like that. But yeah, it just, I think the character and the fact that we were able to take it from the rough state that it was in, that, blind Freddie wouldn't really enjoy too much, but to turn that into something that, I think it was at that stage, that was the worst house on that part of the street, and that
Yeah.
ended up becoming the best house on that part of the street. So that was a bit of a exciting moment too.
It's a nice view. It's also nice for the neighbours. You get lots of feedback from the locals when you do something like that.
Yes, well, the neighbour next door, they were quite happy because that helped up their price on
Yeah.
their property as well.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah, and the fence line out the front wasn't that great between their properties, and so we put a nice fence in there, and that made their yard that even bit better and gave them a little bit more privacy. So they were pretty stoked with that. And then, of course, you've got that fence line thing happening, so there's gutters that go over, or this happening or that happening, and so by us doing this house or that house, it actually fixed a few things for them, which made them super happy on that too. So
Yeah, of
yeah.
course. Oh, that is fantastic. All right. So, um, for listeners like wanting to partner with you, what kind of joint venture or money partner opportunities are you open to? Are you opening to continue to partner up, or you're quite independent? What are your thoughts on that?
I like to be more independent. I'm certainly open to seller joint ventures. So I'm sort of working on one of them at the moment. And I do look for investors that are like finance investors that are wanting to come on board and be part of the process in that aspect. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, I think you bring to the table a really good understanding of how projects evolve and working with the trades. Do you have any tips on working with tradies, managing your tradies, and getting the best from them?
I think respect them,
Yeah,
respect what they bring to the table. Don't muck them around.
yeah,
Make sure that you have open communication and you're transparent with them. I think make sure that their space is ready when they come in. Make sure it's ready to go. Like, don't waste their day. Don't call them in to change one PowerPoint when you've got 10 PowerPoints and 20 lights to change.
yeah,
Accumulate that together for the Sparky so that they're out there, they're doing a solid day or two, and they're not sort of coming out in dribs and drabs. Take on, respect their advice and
yeah.
what they bring to the table, and pay them on time. Like,
Yeah,
pay them
thank
straight
you.
away.
I'm
They give
glad
you
you
the
said
bill, you
that.
pay them.
Yeah, yeah,
I always try and look after my tradies because I think without them, we're buggered.
yeah.
Yeah, there's only so much I can do. And as I get older, there's less that I want to do. So, personally, myself. So, yeah, we really need to just look after them and do the right thing by them.
Yeah, I think the way that you communicate with people too, Misha, really helps out. I think if you're open and you're discussing things along the way and there's no angst in relation to working with tradies or something that's going on site, you can deal with it then and then. That really helps people feel good about a project. And if they feel good about a project and they feel good about you as the person who's running that project, then they'll always fit you in for your next
Oh,
job.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. You do the right thing by people, and they generally would do the right thing by you. I've had some that haven't, and then
Yeah.
you sort of move them to the side. And initially, I
You
was
said that
always
so
quite
nicely. You move them to the side. It's like, I'm not working with
still
you
in the
ever
crowd.
again. Pop them to one
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I was always quite concerned. Oh, will I find another tradie to do this? Or, oh,
yeah,
that's going to take time. It's going to hold me up. It's going to
yeah,
cause me problems. Will I trust them? And then I think, well, actually, this one's taking time. I don't trust this one. And I did actually come to the realization that if I have to move one on, a better one's going to come in and take its place. And I found that since that initial step of putting my big girl panties on and actually stepping out there and saying, right, I think it's time for you to leave the room. Um, I've found consistently that anytime I have had to do that, that someone better has come into their place.
Do
So
you think
that's
that
always
your
good.
experience when you're replacing tradies, your experience has led you to communicate with your new tradie better or ask different questions? Like, how do you go about taking on your new person?
Yeah, I think so. I think each time that you have a situation, you learn something from that as an individual, and then if you're able to take that on board, sometimes when obviously you're going to have a few come in to take that spot to work out which one you want, you can sort of start to see through a few things. And look, like we say, nothing ever really goes to plan. So I think if they're resilient and they can just sort of have good communication and step up and say, look, this isn't going to work, or this is causing a problem somewhere else. For me, if I'm able to roll with those punches, that just makes that whole process much better. And I feel that if the tradie can roll with the punches too, because I am a woman and I do have a prerogative to change my mind on some things.
We try not to, but it happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes you might go, I want these lights. You get the lights. You go, oh, no, that's not working for me. Sorry, I'm going to have to swap them out. So, I sort of look for that bit of resilience in them as well, and a sense of humour. No one wants to go to work and just, you've got multiple tradies there and multiple, just people coming and going, and no one wants to go somewhere where it's just shit awful all day. Someone's carrying a chip on their shoulder, or, blaming the next tradie or the one before them. It's like, no, we don't have that in this camp. Off you go.
Yeah. And I also think it helps just to be pleasant, even if you have something to complain about or something that you have to bring up that's not up to speed or scratch. You can be pleasant about the way you do it. And you can also think about what it's like to receive criticism. I don't personally like to receive feedback that's negative. So I think, how can I frame this so it's going to be received in a better way, which is not going to cause any angst and continue our building the relationship that we've built for our builders. So it's important. Yeah. And not just go in there
I
and
agree.
attack first. It's
Oh
hard not
gosh,
to.
no.
Yeah, if you see something that's not good, oof.
Yeah. You do very much have to be tactful. I like to sort of put myself in the shoes of the person that would be receiving that feedback and how I would go about it. And I like to think along the lines of constructive criticism rather than just sitting there having a go. You haven't done it right.
Yeah.
And I do have to, I do feel that in that position, you have to take on board, and I do as well, that they sort of know their job. They have gone and studied and done all their hard yards to get to where they are. So you do, to an extent, have to respect that. Although you do get some dicks, don't get me wrong. There are plenty out there.
Yeah, no, you do. I was watching a current affair last night. And they were talking about cowboy plumbers, and I just thought, wow, I just can't believe that it still continues. So there are some tradies that don't do the right thing, but the majority of tradies, I mean, I've got guys drilling in the background. You might even be able to pick it up on the audio, but they're just great. They're just great humans. They're really good, and their knowledge is tops, and they're just good to communicate with. And I do treat them with the respect that they deserve, and they have knowledge way beyond Brett and I. We're renovators, they're builders, and they really know how to put things together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my builder, I'm really quite surprised he stuck with me through all these years, Mr. Matt.
He knows you.
Yeah. Although he was, I think he was just starting out. He's in a family business. I think there was 8 children, 7 brothers, and 6 of those brothers are in this one particular business called ViBuild here in Adelaide Hills. And Matty, when he first started, he was just sort of starting, although he was very skilled and experienced anyway, because the dad was a builder, so that it was in the blood, really. But he initially, I'd say, oh, what do you think this? Oh, well, that's up to you. And I'm like, well, I didn't ask you if it was up to me. What do you bloody think? So now he's just like, what the hell? I'm like, just give me that. Just work with me. And he's like, oh, you're all right. So he throws some good ideas at me, because he's exposed to a lot of other renovations and builds and newer properties, older properties. So I just like to take that on board, and we have a good joke and a bit of banter, and he's not a bad stick. He's about 10 foot tall and built like a Neanderthal. So I call him Big Hooer, Mr. Matt, the Big Hooer.
Perfect for lift and carry. Lift and carry purposes is perfect. Yeah,
He resheets the ceilings. He doesn't even need anything to stand on or to. He just,
Oh, he's brilliant.
yeah, it's just
Brilliant.
helps with those, gibbon arms.
Yeah. But someone just starting out who's brand new to renovating, to hear that message is really nice. Because I have good relationships with people that I've worked with too, and most of us find good people in amongst a few. You've got to kiss a few frogs to find your princes, but when you find your princes, then renovating and doing more than one job and taking it to a career level, being able to scale it as a business, as an actual business, occurs when you build your A team, and they'll always just go that extra mile for you, and you go that extra mile for them, and you get good results and you get the work done fast, and you have a real understanding of the level of finish that you expect and what you expect from them, what they expect from you. It's brilliant. Can make things quite, well, I say easy, but there's work involved, but yeah, make things
Mm.
quite seamless.
Yeah, well, I think it is in the big scheme of it, it's the easier path,
Yeah.
because if they're not on page with you and they're not being reliable, those sorts of things, it just makes it, yeah, really challenging.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So what skill sets you got to talk yourself up here, even though it's not in your DNA. Okay, what skill sets do you bring to a renovation that makes you a good renovator, do you think?
um, I guess, you've got your technical side of making, knowing your products and knowing what has to go where and what
Yeah.
trade's doing what and those sorts of things. But I think for me, it's a bit of intuition, maybe. I can sort of see through what's there in front of me initially and go, yeah, I can work with this. I mean, one house I've just sort of looked at just recently to work on, and it's being used for storage. And the room, even though it's not a hoarder's house, it sort of looks that way because it's storage. Um, yeah, you sort of there's stuff everywhere. There's old blinds pulled down and that sort of thing. And I look over and I see this beautiful stone fireplace to the ceiling, like a feature fireplace. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, that's awesome. And I just can straight away sort of feel, right, that needs this kind of a pull the gas one out, pop this nice, beautiful electric, flamey one out in something a little bit more modern, but still keeping the character of that home and just
Yeah.
popping some shelves up on either side. And it's got beautiful bay windows in there and a nice French doors going to an entertaining area. But I think a lot of people struggle to see past what's directly in front of them and look to the bones.
Yeah, I agree. So if somebody were to come across a property in South Australia, you would be happy to work with them even at that level to help them with the design brief and where to start on a
Oh,
renovation?
definitely. Yes, yeah. I've had a couple of inquiries just recently where people have sort of um, got a home. I think one was a single man recently, sort of
Yeah.
divorced and such like, and he moved and he was like, I want it to make it feel like a home, like it just feels all mismatched and whatever. So being able to sort of go in and help with that, it just makes me feel really pleased that I'm able to help somebody make their sanctuary,
Yeah.
and put the essence of them into their home, and it's a part of their personality at the end of the day. So I really, yeah, enjoying that.
Fantastic. How important do you think is growing your knowledge continually and continually honing your craft, the community and networking that comes with property groups? How important is that role played in your current success?
I think that's priceless to me. Like anybody that feels, I think, the when you think you know everything, that goes to show that you don't know much. Because the more you know, the more you
Yeah,
know, the more you realize you do not know.
there's always
And I,
something,
yeah,
always
yeah.
something
So
new.
I'm one of those in that basket, and I'm always picking the brains of the tradies. So it's very important that I have the right tradies that can handle that kind of thing. And I'm not picking their brain in for, are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? But how does this process work? If I
Yeah,
wanted to do that, how do we go about that? Is that going to work? Yeah, what are the other alternatives? It's taken a few of them a little while to be able to say, oh, well, personally, I like this. Or, why would you do that? Why don't you put a door over there? I'm like, yeah, awesome idea. So I love to be able to get that feedback and be able to turn that into, I guess, inner knowledge for myself and use that moving forward for other things.
And knowledge on running numbers as well as, like examining properties properly, like thoroughly, doing really good feasibilities, as well as looking at, the area the property's in and the types of changes you're going to make and what those changes are going to cost and all that kind of stuff. Where have you picked up all of that kind of knowledge over time?
Well, for me, I always look at the bones on a property. That's
Yeah.
the start. Like, is it sound? If it's not sound, why isn't it sound? And what's involved in making it sound? Is the numbers on that worth my time?
Correct.
And then I guess over time you sort of learn that, tile is going to be $75 a square meter to lay your tiles, and this is going to cost that, and this is going to cost that. So I sort of am able to nut out numbers a bit easier as time goes on. And I mean, everything's always going up. It's just the way that is.
Yeah.
I think what's helped for me is that I've been in business prior, so I've been able to, I guess, evolve in that sense of working with your numbers. And I always try and not have the emotion in there. To me, the numbers aren't the emotion. The emotion is the feel of the house and the
Yes.
continuity and the way that it flows at the end of the day. So yeah, the numbers have to stack up before any emotion can come into anything.
Yeah, brilliant. And what's it like hanging out with other renovators?
It's awesome.
Okay,
It
why?
is. Well, you bounce off each other, you see things that they've done, and it's like, that's so fantastic. I guess as a renovator, you're aware of what goes into something. Somebody that doesn't do any renovating type of thing, they don't know the extent and the work that has had to actually go into something that doesn't it just looks like you've put some paint on the wall. And it's like, yeah, no, not really. It's a hell of a lot more that's gone into it than that. So I really enjoy the energy and the feedback from each other, and just the wins from everybody, and
Yeah,
just seeing their creativity. And I think people that are in that space, they it's passion for them. They really
yeah.
enjoy what they're doing, and to see anybody in their environment where they're passionate, and it's just awesome.
I agree. It's why I like coaching the groups that I do, and in particular, people just like you, Mish, who are trying to take things to another level, who are always eager to learn more, who are a great community member. And I think the way, even then, you just talked about other people's projects and not just about your own. I think the way that people champion each other on is so important. So important.
Oh,
In
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, in a world where people can be critical, and you're right, underappreciate the amount of effort and the accomplishment that others make when they
Mm.
turn something really awful, and all of a sudden, you see the pictures on Instagram and they're all finished. Just understanding what went in to doing that bit by bit. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, Miescha, for joining us today. And you can be found at Rising Phoenix Property Solutions. Am I allowed to give away your direct email address if somebody wants to email you directly right now?
Yeah. It is Rising Phoenix
Phoenix
Property
Property at
at
gmail
gmail.com.
dot com. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, thank you very much for the invitation to have a chat today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, Mish, and keep renovating. You are fabulous at what you do, and you keep active too. You're a busy lady. You're just never doing nothing. You're always networking and meeting other people and setting up your joint venture projects. Your renovation business is only, I think it's only just begun compared to where I'd like to see you in another couple of years. Let's go.
I agree. I agree. I
Let's
agree.
go.
Yeah.
All right,
Early
brilliant.
days so far. Yeah.
Yeah, and doing really well already. Thank you. Appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Thank you, Belinda.